What if there was a moment, deep in the shadows of Middle-earth's history, where two ancient beings may have stood face to face? One was the Dark Lord, still fair in form, offering knowledge, power, and order to the world. The other was older than the stars, humming to the wind, untouched by time, and utterly immune to darkness. What if Tom Bombadil met Sauron? It's not written in any of the tales. No elf sings of it, no wizard speaks of it. But the signs are there. Hints in the timeline and gaps in the map. Echoes of something too strange to ignore. And if this meeting really happened, then everything we think we know about the ring, about Sauron, and about Tom Bombadil himself, it changes, all of it. Tom Bombadil doesn't fit the story. The elves, the dwarves, the kingdoms of men, everyone plays their part in the great fight against Sauron. Everyone suffers and everyone loses something. But not Tom. Bombadil lives in his forest. He sings to trees. He tells riddles. He saves hobbits with a smile. And when he's offered the One Ring, Sauron's greatest weapon, he shrugs, flips it in the air, and laughs. It has no power over him. The same ring that corrupted kings and broke heroes means nothing to him. And no one seems to know why. Gandalf says that Bombadil would forget the ring, that he isn't part of the fight, that he's different. But maybe he isn't outside the story. Maybe he's above it. Because if Bombadil had once met Sauron and stood against him, not with armies or swords, but by being something Sauron could never be, then everything makes more sense. The ring doesn't tempt him because he already saw what it leads to. The wars don't concern him because he knows where they all end. And the Dark Lord never steps foot in his forest because he remembers the day Tom Bombadil said no. Tolkien never gave us a clear answer. Tom Bombadil lives east of the Shire near the Barrow-downs. He's cheerful, immortal, and strange. He calls himself eldest. Even the elves don't know where he came from. When Frodo offers him the One Ring, Bombadil doesn't care. He tosses it in the air. It disappears. He laughs. No one else in the world can do this. Gandalf says that if Bombadil took the ring, he would forget about it. The ring has no power over him, but he also has no interest in power. That alone makes him dangerous to Sauron. But here's the thing. Tom is not just a peaceful nature spirit. He's old, very old, possibly from before Arda itself. And in all those long years, we have no clue what he has been up to. Let's step back for a moment. In the Second Age, Sauron rises. He forges the One Ring. He builds armies. He burns cities. The Free Peoples unite to stop him. Elves, men, dwarves, even Ents. Everyone joins the fight, except one. Where was Tom Bombadil during all of this? He didn't join the Last Alliance. He didn't protect Arnor when it fell. He didn't stop Angmar from rising, but why didn't he? Tolkien tells us that Tom is a master in his own land, but not beyond it. That's convenient. But some believe it's a cover, a lie, a shield for something deeper. Because the One Ring, Sauron's greatest weapon, doesn't affect him. Perhaps Sauron knew more than the story tells us. There's a period of time right after the War of Wrath and before the forging of the rings where little is written. The world is still healing. Morgoth is gone. Sauron disappears for a while, changing his form, planning in secret. This is where it could have happened. Tom Bombadil was already in Middle-earth. Sauron, in his fair form, was wandering. He wasn't the Dark Lord yet. He was Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Kind, wise, and persuasive. And what if he came to the Old Forest? Sauron may have tried to win Bombadil over. A being like Tom would have been useful. Sauron loved control, and Tom, unmovable, immune, ancient, was the one thing he couldn't control. But the meeting probably wouldn't go as planned. Maybe Tom refused him. Maybe he laughed in his face. Or maybe, just maybe, he warned Sauron. That power would fail, that the world would resist. This moment, hidden in shadow, could explain why Bombadil was left alone for centuries, why his land was never touched by war, and why the ring had no power over him. Not because he was unseen, but because he had already faced the darkness. When Frodo and his friends stay at Tom's house, it feels like a peaceful break. But it may have been a test. Not of Tom, but of the ring. You can check out the video I have covering that topic. If the ring was truly all-powerful, it would have affected him. But it didn't. Even Gandalf feared it. Galadriel trembled before it. But Bombadil? He simply smiled. Was he remembering that meeting? Was he thinking of Anatar, of the day a fallen Maya tried to tempt him? Maybe that's why Gandalf says Bombadil is not part of the fight. He's already made his choice. And he may have been the first and only being in Middle-earth to say no to Sauron's face. If you think this meeting actually happened, then congratulations. You're probably not invited to any Elvish dinner parties, but you're definitely in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around, because we're about to go deeper than a Balrog in Moria. At the Council of Elrond, Bombadil is brought up. Couldn't he just take the ring and hide it forever? The answer is no. Gandalf says Tom would not understand the danger, that he would forget, that the ring would outlive him. But how can that be true? This is someone who laughs at the power of the ring, someone who cannot be controlled by it. How could he possibly forget something that powerful? Here's the thing. Maybe Gandalf was protecting Bombadil. Maybe he knew more than he shared, because if Bombadil truly had met Sauron, if he knew what Sauron was, then telling others about him would put everything at risk. Keeping Tom out of the war might have been the safest option. Have you ever wondered why Sauron never touched the Shire? It's not just because it was small and peaceful. It's not just because hobbits didn't matter. It's because of the land next to it. The old forest was wild, alive, ancient. And at the center of it, Tom Bombadil, the one being Sauron, could never break. Sauron's power spread across the east through Mordor, through the ruins of Arnor, but his armies never walked into Bombadil's land, not once. This wasn't an accident. If the two truly met, if Sauron tried and failed to control him, it makes sense. Sauron would never return to that place, not because he couldn't find it, but because he was afraid of it. Now let's talk about the Barrow-downs. This land near Bombadil's home is filled with death. The Barrow-wights, undead spirits, trap travelers and whisper old songs of sorrow. But when the hobbits are caught, Tom simply appears and sings them away. He doesn't just scare the wights. He commands them to leave, and they do, but how? Who else in Middle-earth could speak a few words and send dark spirits running? This power isn't just magic. It's old, older than the rings, maybe even older than Sauron. And maybe, just maybe, this is why the ring has no pull here. The land itself remembers. Bombadil remembers. This place may hold the memory of that meeting. A graveyard for more than just kings. Maybe a graveyard for secrets. We often see Bombadil as silly, harmless, strange man with boots and songs. But that's what makes him so dangerous. He doesn't need power, because he already has something greater. He has freedom. Everyone in Middle-earth is bound to something, but Tom is bound to nothing. He doesn't want to rule, he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't even want to leave his forest. That's what makes him untouchable. And that might be why Sauron failed, because in the end, Sauron wanted to master all wills. But Bombadil, he had no will to master. If they met, and if Sauron tried to bend him, then Tom showed him something he couldn't understand. A being who simply didn't care for power. Sauron was destroyed, but evil is not gone. Middle-earth still carries wounds. Shadows still whisper. And if darkness rises again, would Tom Bombadil rise too? There's a theory, one that says Bombadil is not inactive, but waiting for the moment when the world needs something it's never seen before. Not a warrior or a wizard, but someone the darkness cannot touch. Tolkien never told us who Tom Bombadil truly was. He left that mystery for us to ponder. But there are patterns, gaps in history, hints in the shadows. A moment where Sauron may have met something he could not destroy, a being who does not fight but cannot be beaten, someone who doesn't need power to win. And perhaps that quiet meeting in an old forest shaped the fate of Middle-earth more than any war or king. If you think this meeting actually happened, then you're definitely in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click on the next video. There's something very wrong about Tom Bombadil, and Sauron knew it, because if you think this was strange, you haven't seen anything yet.